At first, she thought it was just a glitch. Every night at 3:03 a.m., the same thing happened. Her bedroom lights turned on. Bright. Full brightness. No warning. The first time it happened, she woke up confused and grabbed her phone. The smart home app showed a notification. Bedroom light turned on. She assumed she had scheduled it by mistake, maybe when she was setting routines earlier that week. So she checked the automation settings. No schedule, no timer, no voice command, nothing. The next night, it happened again. Exactly 3:03 a.m. The light snapped on, filling the room with white light. Her phone buzzed with the same notification. Bedroom light turned on. This time she stayed awake, waiting to see if anything else in the apartment changed. Nothing did. The hallway stayed dark. The living room light stayed off. Only the bedroom light had turned on. She checked the activity log again, and that's when she noticed something strange. The lights hadn't been activated by her account. The log showed the command came from device, not from a person, not from the voice assistant, just device. The third night, she decided to stay awake. 2:59 a.m., 3 a.m., 3:01 a.m. Her eyes stayed fixed on the ceiling. Then her phone vibrated softly. A notification appeared before the lights even turned on. Motion detected living room camera. And 1 second later, the bedroom light switched on. She grabbed her phone immediately. The living room camera alert was still on the screen. Motion detected 3:03 a.m. But she hadn't heard anything. No footsteps, no doors, nothing. Her thumb hovered over the notification for a second before she tapped it. The camera feed opened. The living room appeared on her screen. Dim, quiet. Everything exactly the way she had left it before going to bed. Couch, coffee table, front door. Nothing moving. She frowned. Maybe the camera had picked up a shadow or a light change from outside. That happens sometimes. She was about to close the app when something small in the corner of the screen caught her attention. The hallway light was on. Her stomach tightened because she hadn't turned it on, and she knew the hallway light wasn't connected to any schedule. Slowly, she zoomed in on the camera feed. The hallway stretched toward her bedroom door. Empty. But the light above the camera hallway was glowing, meaning the camera itself had activated, recording, watching. Then the camera shifted slightly. Just a tiny movement, but enough to change the angle. Now it pointed farther down the hallway, closer to her bedroom. Her pulse jumped because she knew something about that camera. It didn't move. It was mounted to the wall, completely fixed. She sat up in bed, staring at the screen. The hallway still looked empty, but the camera wasn't done moving. It tilted again, another slow adjustment, like someone was trying to aim it. And then her phone vibrated again. Another entry appeared in the smart home activity log. 3:03 a.m., bedroom light turned on. Below it, a second entry appeared, one she had never seen before. 3:03 a.m., camera control active. Her throat went dry. She was the only one who had access to the system. There shouldn't have been anyone else controlling the camera. But the feed on her phone kept adjusting, slowly, carefully, until the camera was pointed directly at the hallway outside her bedroom door. And that's when she saw it, a shadow moving across the floor. She leaned closer to the screen. The shadow stretched across the hallway floor for a second, then disappeared. Her heart began to race. She stared at the camera feed, waiting for someone to step into view, but no one did. The hallway stayed empty, just the light above the camera and the pale reflection of the walls. She replayed the clip. The shadow appeared again, slow, thin, like something passing in front of the hallway light, but it moved too smoothly to be a person walking. It almost looked like something sliding across the floor. Her phone buzzed again. Another system notification appeared. Camera recording saved. That was strange. Normally, the system only saved clips when motion lasted more than a few seconds, but the shadow had only appeared briefly. She opened the saved clip. The footage started a few seconds earlier than the live alert. The hallway looked normal at first. Then, the hallway light turned on by itself. 1 second later, the shadow appeared again, but this time she noticed something she had missed before. The shadow wasn't coming from the hallway. It was coming from the living room. Something outside the camera frame was blocking the light, something tall enough to cast a shadow into the hallway. And slowly, very slowly, the shadow began moving closer, sliding toward her bedroom door. Her breathing became shallow because of something in the living room was casting that shadow, then whatever it was walking down the hallway toward her room. The camera feed flickered slightly, and then the shadow stopped, right outside her bedroom door, exactly where she was sitting on the other side. Her phone vibrated again. Another entry appeared in the activity log. 3:04 a.m., bedroom motion sensor activated. Her stomach dropped. She hadn't moved, and the motion sensor was inside her bedroom. She stared at the notification. 3:04 a.m., bedroom motion sensor activated. Her chest tightened. The sensor was mounted above her bedroom door. It only triggered when something moved inside the room, but she hadn't moved. She was sitting perfectly still on the bed. Her eyes slowly scanned the bedroom. Desk, closet, window. Nothing moving. Then her phone vibrated again. Another entry appeared in the smart home log. 3:04 a.m., bedroom light brightness adjusted. She looked up instantly. The light above her had dimmed slightly. Not off, just lower, like someone had manually adjusted it. Her hands felt cold. She opened the device control panel. The app showed the brightness slider moving on its own, from 100% down to 60%, then stopping. Her heart pounded, because she wasn't touching the screen. Something else was controlling the lights. Then the hallway camera feed updated again. The shadow under the door moved, just slightly, like someone shifting their weight outside. Her throat went dry. She slowly looked toward the crack beneath the bedroom door. The hallway light was still on, and a dark line stretched across the floor. The same shadow she saw on the camera. Her phone buzzed again. Another notification appeared, but this one didn't come from the lights or the camera. It came from the voice assistant. Voice command detected. She froze. She hadn't said anything. The apartment had been silent. She opened the command log. Normally, it showed the exact words the system heard, but this time the transcription looked strange. Instead of a sentence, it just showed one word: bedroom. Her heart skipped, because that wasn't a command. That sounded more like someone identifying a room. Then the voice assistant speaker in the living room turned on. She heard the faint activation tone from down the hallway, followed by a moment of static, and then a voice spoke through the speaker, low, quiet, and very clear. Lights work. Her pulse slammed in her ears. The voice paused for a second, then spoke again. Camera works too. She didn't move, didn't breathe. The voice from the living room speaker had gone silent again. Her phone still showed the activity log open in the smart home app. The last entry sat there on the screen. Voice command detected. But she hadn't said anything, and that voice definitely wasn't hers. Her eyes slowly lifted toward the bedroom door again. The shadow under it was still there, completely still, like someone standing on the other side. Then the voice assistant activated again. The small tone echoed faintly from the living room. A second later, the same voice returned, calm, almost casual. Lights, camera. There was a short pause. Then the voice finished the sentence. Motion sensor 2. Her stomach dropped. Whoever was speaking wasn't guessing. They were testing the system. testing each device one by one, and every time they mentioned something, it activated. Her phone vibrated again. Another notification appeared in the log. 3:05 a.m., living room camera night mode enabled. The camera feed on her screen darkened slightly as infrared mode turned on. The hallway now looked grainy and gray, and the shadow outside her door became darker, more defined. Her heart pounded harder, because now she could see something she hadn't noticed before. The shadow wasn't flat anymore. It had edges, like it belonged to a person standing there. Her phone buzzed again. Another update. 3:05 a.m., front door status open. Her breath caught. If the front door had just opened, then whoever had been standing outside her bedroom should have walked away. But the shadow under the door didn't move. It was still there, exactly the same. Then the voice came back through the speaker again, this time quieter, almost amused. Okay, everything works. Her phone vibrated one more time. A new notification appeared, one she had never seen before. New device disconnected. She stared at the screen. New device disconnected. Just like that, the activity stopped. No more light changes, no more camera movements, no more voice commands. The smart home app returned to normal, but the shadow under her bedroom door was still there. Her heart pounded as she slowly stood up. The phone flashlight switched on in her hand. The beam shook slightly as she walked toward the door. The shadow didn't move, not even a little, which suddenly made her realize something strange. If someone had really been standing outside the door, the shadow should have shifted, even a little, but it hadn't. Her hand slowly reached for the doorknob. She pulled the door open. The hallway was empty, completely empty. The lights were still on. The living room was quiet. No person, no movement. Her eyes dropped to the floor, and immediately she understood. The shadow she had been seeing wasn't a person at all. It was the shape of the hallway coat rack. When the hallway light turned on earlier, the rack had cast a long shadow toward her door. The camera angle had just made it look like someone standing there. Her breathing finally slowed, but one question still bothered her. If no one had been inside the apartment, then who had been controlling the system? She checked the smart home log again. The unknown device entry was gone, but the network history still showed one detail. The device that had connected earlier hadn't come from inside her apartment. It had connected through the building Wi-Fi network, which meant someone nearby had briefly accessed her smart home hub, testing the system, turning devices on and off, checking what worked, checking what they could control, and then disconnecting once they were finished. The next morning, she checked the hallway camera in the building lobby. At 3:02 a.m., just before everything started, a man walked past her apartment door. He stopped for a moment, looked down at his phone, waited a few seconds, then continued walking down the hall. Right as he passed her door, her bedroom lights turned on for the first time, which meant the person hadn't needed to break into her apartment. They had simply connected to her smart home system from outside, testing which apartments were vulnerable, testing which devices responded, and once they were done, they disappeared down the hallway, leaving her lights to turn on by themselves every night at 3:03 a.m.